Good morning. Marcin, you're back home. Welcome to episode 128. Marcin's internet connection will hopefully be a lot better today. You're not in the mountains. And we today are welcomed, we're welcoming Darren Ferguson. Hey, Darren.
Morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. You know, we say this every week now, Marcin, but Friday comes out of nowhere. The concept of days and weeks has sort of disintegrated for me. Is it the same for you, Darren?
Yeah, really. But my daughter's back to school this week, so it's a bit of normality returning.
Some structure.
Yeah, we were chatting before going live with Darren about kids at school, and I also thought that it will be a huge relief for me this week because my daughter is the first week in the kindergarten. But then some issues hit me even harder than this Friday, and I spent 2 days investigating some of the craziness stuff on the client servers. And yeah, it's Friday, but hopefully not all of us and not all of the Umbraco community members spend days wasting time or figuring out some issues, because it was really packed week with the releases, announcements, and crazy stuff from Umbraco's side. But Carole,
I was surprised because I said to Darren actually, this week's actually been pretty light on news. So this would be a great week to come on. And then I compiled the list and went,
oh no.
There was about 15 releases this week.
But I can do a speed demo of SpeedWagon. I'll cut it lean. Okay.
No, we've definitely got time, so we're all good.
That's for all of us. But Callum, let's went back to the last Friday when I was cutting off and losing my internet connection all the time. But it was a CodePatch event, which a lot of community members attended. And I must just say that when I was coming back from the Mondays, I was scrolling through the Twitter feed, checking all of the Discord messages, all the Slack messages, and it looked like a really amazing event. And can you summarize it in a couple words?
It was so good. So I think this is a fair comment. It was advertised as a hackathon and talks and a lot of other stuff. I don't think anyone did any or very much hacking, but it was a day and a half of fantastic community time. So we had some amazing talks. But the thing actually for me that was so good was last Friday after umbraCoffee, I was saying to Lars how I just want to have a beer with my friends in the sun right now. We would have been at Code Garden, and the start of CodePatch last week, they had Ole Erling playing at the Hammond organ, and they had some like slides with funny messages to welcome people, and you did kind of get some of that Code Garden vibe. There was maybe 60 people there in the room at that time. And so it did sort of make up for the fact that we weren't at Code Garden, which was great.
Yeah, and referring to Code Garden, I will share my screen. There was also a bingo, bingo organized as a Discord bot.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's not just someone going, oh, you know, here's some bingo sheets. Sven made a bingo bot for Discord in C#. And it's open source on GitHub. We'll put the link in the chat below. But yeah, so there was commands you could run. He was running on a server in his basement, I think. But the other thing I'll say is it's actually a really well architected application for something that he claims was thrown together in a couple of days. It looks really, really good, and people had endless fun with this.
Yeah, my friend was recently playing with the Discord and .NET integrations, and it's such an amazing stuff and such a lot of possibilities here. And seeing it, I was just amazed by the connection between the communicator app plus the bingo needs, and I'm really happy to see this code. As you've mentioned, is a really well built application, so everyone can use it for the Discord situations. But also, you've done a code, the beta patch. Which was kind of, you know, I'm often seeing your pictures in the web from the events, but never in the suit like that. So
I decided to have a bit of fun because again, we're missing Code Garden. I thought let's do something fun. So for beta patch, I dressed up as a scarecrow because why not? And that costume was so itchy, by the way. And I gave away some prizes to the first, second, third place. So we had some carrots, which Jan Skovgaard won. a limited edition Umbraco face mask, which is a really scary video. And the winning prize, which went to Kevin Jump, was a one-of-a-kind Umbraco friendly hazmat suit.
Was Kevin's thing recorded, by the way? Because I was really interested in.
None of the demos were recorded, but I kind of wish they were. Kevin, I saw people tweeting, and everyone, when he demoed, their jaw was just on the floor. So, I mean, the competition, you're supposed to show one thing you've been working on, and Kevin showed up and went, "Oh, I'm gonna show 4," and every single thing he showed was just more jaw dropping than the other. He had they're all experimental, and whether they'll get released, I don't know. But he had an app that you could from the back office of Umbraco create the Azure resources you need to deploy your website, and then it would zip everything up and deploy it. Which is
that was the bit I was interested to take a look at. I guess it was ARM templates and something behiand the.
He said it wasn't using ARM templates; it was just using the API. Lars Eric asked if could this be using ARM templates, and he was like, "Yeah, we could. That could be possible." It was so cool, and even stuff like it would know which blob storage accounts you already have, so you can select them from a drop down and get up and running. It's awesome. I don't actually know if I'd use it myself, but just as a proof of it working, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. You can do so much with the Azure API. So we've got some stuff going on with, rather than having hundreds of preview environments sitting around in Azure, we kind of spin them up on demand. So you make a release, it checks whether the environment exists and goes and puts it together. So you can do.
Yeah, I'm doing very similar again with ARM templates and stuff. It would be cool to see this blogged about and maybe made a bit more mainstream. And with Kevin's package, could it actually be made in a friendly way that people can digest without having to worry about Azure.
I'll hassle him to do a screencast or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. More events and more opportunities to share it, because probably everyone wants to see that. I also would like to see if the ARM templates comparison with Terraform. I don't know if you have used Terraform. It's like multi-cloud language in between of CLIs for the cloud providers.
And there's the new one called Pulumi, which does the same thing. Again, multi-vendor. That I think the benefits of using, say, ARM templates is they have knowledge of all the Azure specific stuff, whereas Terraform, you go, I want storage, not I want Azure block. So
but that's for the purposes. If we are only on Azure, that's probably easier to use the APIs and CLI from Azure. But that's curious, and it's important to see the possibilities like that. I'm as same curious as you guys about this, how it's built and how Kevin did it. But let's see, and let's wait for the other opportunities to talk about it. But Darren, if we have you here, we were talking about some of your work in the past weeks. So maybe you can tell us more about what you've accomplished with your SpeedWagon, without too much speed applied, of course.
Well, it's called SpeedWagon after the Bandario Speedwagon. I don't know why it used to be a running gag, but no, I mean it's been around for, I think it was 2014, and originally we picked up an Umbraco site that was not in great shape, because it was having way too much traffic pushed through it, and actually as well they were kind of putting user generated content into Umbraco, so cache was growing, content base was growing, it needed to scale out, and when it scaled out, this was Umbraco, it's either 4 or 6, and so when you scaled it out, you'd have like a 5-minute boot time in Azure or something. So originally what we did was when you published content in Umbraco, we just serialize it to JSON on disk, and then SpeedWagon would just render out an application based on those content files, and it worked really well. I mean, we were kind of running in Azure for these events they hosted, and they'd have thousands and thousands of users online, and we'd have kind of one app service instance powering it, and as the application warmed up, that would kind of scale out to 5, 6, 7, and then contract back in as the traffic dropped off. So it worked really well. It was just, the whole idea was as few dependencies as possible, just a simple web app that could scale up and down.
So what you're saying there is you had the Umbraco CMS for content management, and then you would serialize everything to disk, and then SpeedWagon would run on the server for the routing and the serving of that content.
Yeah. So we managed to get the Umbraco serialization happened on a content publish event, and we actually managed to get that to write to the disk of the scalable app service. And then obviously, because that's shared storage, if you roll up new instances, then each instance can access that content on disk, and it uses kind of selective memory caching. So rather than load everything into memory on startup, it's kind of an on-demand cache. So for example, if you request the home page, it reads the home page JSON into memory, keeps it there, and when it hasn't been accessed for half an hour, however long, then it drops out of memory, and then it's just a pass-through cache basically to disk. Yeah, so that was where it started.
I'm seeing actually the links now. I remember the blog you did, a runtime for Umbraco.
Yeah.
I remember that. And if I'm right, you can correct me here, but did one of your colleagues, I think Gary, do a blog of using that JSON, but then basically serving Umbraco serialized content in a PHP application?
Yeah, Gary did one with PHP. I think Kevin Jump also did a sort of proof of concept on some kind of JavaScript framework as well. So yeah, and I mean that kind of concept could still apply. Umbraco could be the source of this JSON. That code is still in there somewhere. And if you look at the JSON, it might look familiar. It might look like a piece of Umbraco content, because that's where it originates from. And if you do want a really kind of editor-friendly CMS over something like this, it's still my go-to choice. I've done a lot of time looking at alternatives like there's SquidX and lots of other similar things, and you just can't quite get to the editor experience of Umbraco. But what I'm going to demonstrate, really, the idea behind it is it's much more of a sort of a developer-y thing, whereas I just want content in an application. It's not necessarily being maintained by editors, it's being maintained by me as a developer, and particularly what I like about it is to set up a simple blog. You can just have a self-contained app, you can host it really cheaply, but again the kind of theory applies that if suddenly it got a lot of traffic, it can be tiny and cheap, or it can be huge and scale out as and when required, basically.
Awesome.
It's just mainly a pet project, because I'm a .NET developer of too many years to mention, and I like the whole kind of Visual Studio .NET Core workflow for building my stuff, and it scratches an itch.
Yeah.
Do you want to show your screen then and show us
sure.
how it's done?
Yeah. Let me know when you have it.
Yeah, we have it already.
Yeah. So just basically, this is the repository as it comes down from GitHub. It's just completely content free at the moment, and you can run it as is. The only thing you really need to do is point it at a path on disk where you want to store your content. That could actually be blob storage if you wanted. You can also there's an interface for login providers, but I've got one called Simple, and by simple it means you don't have to log in at all. But you can set it up with AD auth, and then you've got two settings: whether to register the CMS, so that basically decides whether to put in the roots for the kind of admin panel. So for your live app, you might turn that off, and then whether to cache the content. So when you're developing locally, you would just want every page refresh to reload the content. Whereas if you're in a production environment, you'd want to use that sort of memory-based write-through cache. So yeah, then if I just run it.
I'm really impressed that you've actually gone and implemented like a whole provider model for auth and storage. That's really cool.
Yeah, everything should be fairly easy to sort of pull out and replace. So, for example, for the the cache implementation as well, if you wanted to base it on Redis rather than memory or something like that, then the process should be quite straightforward. But I would disclaim that with the fact it's not a lovely, beautifully documented open source project. It's my hackings, and you would need to do a fair bit of reading to get involved in it.
The code is the documentation.
Yeah, I still
well, you've never read my code. Yeah. So anyway, if you just go to kind of /SpeedWagon in the browser, and I've got this really handy button up here that says set up some basic stuff. So this is the directory I pointed out, which is empty. And if you hit set up some basic stuff, then what it does is it just goes and really just creates a file structure for storing stuff in. So you've got a folder for content types, and editors, which if you're thinking, in Umbraco-centric language would be a property editor, and so it just sort of creates that all empty. So then, I mean, again, the really quick demo is just going to be to create a simple content type. So editors just map onto some MVC views. So in the repository, you get some simple ones like a checkbox, date picker, grid editor, all that kind of stuff. To create an editor, it really is just a little bit of HTML. You have basically, and then you just have an ASP4 attribute that tells it which property on your content type to map onto. And for something like a rich text area, so this just uses TinyMCE. You've just got a text area with again with the property name on it, and then you just basically tell it to include a client-side requirement. So a couple of bits of JavaScript. So this is TinyMCE, and this is my custom bit of JavaScript to initialize the editor. So I'll just quickly go in here, and then we'll create one. Hang on, I'll just move this over here. So basically, these just have to match the names of the views I have in the project. So I'll just create a checkbox. I will create a text box. In theory, I could probably just ship with these files. So let's have a date picker. I can't remember whether it's case sensitive. I don't think it is. Date picker, a grid, and then rich text, and that will do for a quick demo. Yeah, so just quickly, I'll just go and create a content type, but then what you can see here is on disk, if you go into editors, it's just kind of created folders for this configuration. And I've actually set up an empty Git repository. So as you go and as you work, you can see, that it's creating files for each of these items. So once you kind of get familiar with how it works, you can obviously just go and modify content types and editors on disk directly, basically. And yeah, so let's just go back in here, and I'll create just a simple content type, and I'll call it home. I'll allow it to be a root type, and then if I edit it, I can just add properties. So I'll add a name, which is text box. I'll add a date, date picker, and then let's just say body, which is a rich text area, and then let's just add a grid editor as well. So that's content type. So again, if I just go back quickly onto Git, you can see under my content types, there's the definition of it. Again, it's just a bit of JSON that says, here are the editors that make up this content type. And then finally, so I go back into content, I create a bit of content called home. And if I edit it, then you can see these are the sort of properties, the collections of properties. So let's just set a date and then sort of go and save the content. And again, if I come back to disk, then there's that piece of content I've just created with my property values in it.
Nice.
So the idea of this is that I could do this locally, and then when I shipped out to sort of my production environment, I could just ship out the content folder basically, and just keep all of this configuration elsewhere. So that's the 5-minute demo of it, really. It's probably more than 5 minutes because I talk a lot when I get going.
That's really cool, and I love that it's actually the output so clean and relatively simple. So I had 2 questions. The first is, this is then just consumable in MVC, like pure ASP.NET.
Yeah. So in the so basically in the repository that you download, it's the implementation that runs my blog. So yeah, it doesn't interfere with MVC really. So I've just got one controller, and I've just got one action really. And this isn't probably the best way to do it in a real world scenario. You'd probably register a route per content type, but this one is just basically, all this one is doing is saying, if the type is home, then return the home view, and if it's an RSS feed, return the RSS view, and the default would just return it based on the it would map to a view that has the same name as the content type. But yeah, so you could do it how you want. You could add a specific route called blog, and then do some custom logic in there.
Very nice.
It's really interesting. And again, the abstractions of the services and all the things which are obviously possible, because a lot of packages and stuff like that are doing the same imports and exports of that content, gives us, and it gave you the power of control of the UI for the content edition and stuff like that. I'm really curious how the grid works in your implementation of the.
Well, you'll notice I didn't show that, and I'm not sure it does work. But, no, it's just
grid.
No, it's some stolen JavaScript from the internet. Basically, it's just a plugin. So yeah, I can't actually remember what it's called. If you go into the view for it.
Yeah, I remember we've done one of the implementations like that for the client who wanted to have a backend, the back office abstracted and separated from the Umbraco back office, and it was such a hard implementation to choose some kind of editors and replicate editors which are not there by default. But still, it was very, very cool to integrate, because again, mapping between properties and services from Umbraco are such great to extend and easy to extend that it's all possible, and great to see that.
And is this here using Smidge?
Sorry, say again. It's gone a bit quiet, Callum.
Client requirement, is that Smidge?
No. This is just something like
you've made.
Super simple. All it really does is it just it doesn't do any fancy compression or amalgamation. It just looks to see whether this requirement has already been rendered within the current content, and it outputs a tag for it. If it hasn't, basically. But yeah, I mean, again, it should be. So if you look at the source, I mean, up at the top here, you can just see it renders out the CSS files. But if you reference, obviously, if you've got the same editor twice, then it's not going to render out the tag twice. But yeah, I mean, again, this should be something that's fairly pluggable and easy to replace. If you did want to include some kind of a compression and amalgamation, it'd be fairly easy to do.
Nice.
Nice.
My two final questions were, we mentioned at the start about how this kind of originated as an Umbraco thing, and now it's .NET Core running, effectively consuming serialized JSON files. What you're saying is you don't want to use the CMS, you can turn that off as an app setting, so it won't find the roots. And then if you were to say, is there a library I can install into, say, an Umbraco site to generate those definitions?
There is. So, and I don't know where it is. it does exist.
Cool.
Yeah. I think it's still somewhere on my GitHub. There's basically it is just it's a DLL you would drop in. It would hook into Umbraco events for publish of content, and then it outputs that JSON file. You've obviously got the job of then moving those files from your Umbraco app into a SpeedWagon runtime, which doesn't really exist, but it's a fairly simple thing to do, to be perfectly honest.
Awesome. And then the final thing is, I noticed there's a search thing. What does that do?
Well, it does out of the box have a Lucene implementation as well.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, if you in the folder that you set up, you probably want to ignore this from Git, but it does build Lucene indexes.
Great.
It might even work. Well, it kind of works, but
that's awesome.
Oh no, it was going so well.
But that Lucene implementation, I could query that in my .NET code for kind of front end.
And the search kind of implementation, again, it should be, there's nothing specific in there to register your own at the moment, but I mean it will be a few minutes to take the interface and put it on top of Azure Search or whatever. But yeah, it's fairly simple if you've got the stomach for hacking around in my code. Anyway,
that's really cool. I think I might actually go away and have a play with this, because I've potentially got a use case. Oh yeah, and it's on GitHub, so there'll be a link below.
Yeah.
Your blog's running on SpeedWagon already, didn't you?
It is, yeah. So this is basically, it's just the push of the GitHub repository with some configuration. So yeah, and but yeah, if anyone does feel inclined to pull it and play with it, wants to know anything, just stick something on the GitHub issues, because there is tidying up to do, or some things where it would have been 2 in the morning and I just wanted to get something to work. So yeah, I'm completely open to kind of cleaning up and answering any questions about it.
Very good.
Nice. Really cool. Really cool work.
Maybe while we're on the topic of simplicity, we could move on to a slightly different topic, maybe a little bit more Umbraco focused, which was the blog post that Niels released. Was it yesterday? 2 days ago, Wednesday. He released about he wants to make Umbraco simpler and basically more accessible in terms of getting started, getting up and running quicker and easier. And this is a really interesting one, because I don't think anyone would oppose to it being simpler.
Yeah, and I've seen tweets and some concerns of people saying that so you no longer need developers for Umbraco or something like that. And obviously it's not like that. It's still like focusing probably around the whole mission of Umbraco becoming a core and simple and still helpful for the content population. And I think in general right now it's really needed, because we at least used to do think about CMS and content as a part of the whole puzzles inside of the solutions or projects for the clients, and having various puzzles just working and being simple and doing their job is really helpful in building.
There's stuff that every single website ends up having on it, and a lot of agencies. An agency may have their own base template or starter kit with stuff baked in that they are kind of ready to go, but every agency has their own version of that. I think what Niels is trying to address here is the stuff that gets done time and time again. Stop reinventing the wheel. An example of that would be, say, sitemaps, robots, TXT files, SEO, and Open Graph data in the CMS. Something that every single site has and needs, but people end up building in slightly different ways every single time. So what I think is being called for is some alternative packages, ways to get up and running quicker. I don't think Niels is saying let's replace developers, but I think it does give us is, as a developer, I can focus on the cool, awesome integration stuff, the stuff where my value comes through rather than building the same thing 10 times a year.
I think the interesting challenge in that is kind of not so much taking the example of a sitemap and a robots.txt. Obviously, it is a relatively simple thing to just ship with that built in. I think the more interesting process is just rolling updates. Obviously, because normally a standard thing that comes with Umbraco, as an agency, it will meet 80% of your requirements, and then you'll normally need to do the last 20% to massage it into the project. So I think kind of being able to take this common base functionality, ship it with Umbraco, but also almost sort of like baselines in cloud, but be able to roll out updates without interfering with customizations.
That's a fantastic point, because I think I'm going to try and avoid going on a rant here, because I'm actually quite passionate about this. But the term starter kit really bugs me, because actually the starter kits in their existing form, they are just more like a demo site. It's a fixed template, it's a fixed set of doc types. They're very difficult to extend. And if you do extend them, as you said, Darren, you break all upgradability. And that still goes for some of these commercial products like Uskinned, and there's Igloo themes as well, which are effectively templating engines on top of Umbraco, but they come with all this stuff. And if you modify it, you can't just do a NuGet update and get all those changes there. You have to manually go through and unpick, choose my stuff, choose some other things. And I have to say, one platform that does this really, really well is WordPress. They have a fantastic plugin architecture, and bringing that sort of architecture to Umbraco would be really valuable. I'm not saying we want to turn Umbraco into WordPress and it's just 3 clicks and you've got a website that does everything, but at least the behavior of, I can do upgrades, I can separately extend upon something without touching it, would be really valuable, and make starter kits or themes actually a first-class citizen in Umbraco.
As someone who did a WordPress upgrade yesterday on one of the sites, between almost the major versions, it is exactly what we are looking for, and being confident that it won't break is what we are looking for, and it will save a lot of time for all of the agencies and companies to focus on things which are very important, the most important for clients and for projects, rather than simple stuff which should be automated and done behind the scenes.
We're not talking about turning Umbraco into this one-stop shop. It just builds your website, but actually just having a little bit more out-of-the-box boilerplate stuff that you can work within a framework of, rather than and build on top of, rather than just having to install a theme and that be that. It just saves everyone a bit of time.
Yeah, I think there's probably some. I mean, it's not such a concern on cloud, but I think there's some other quick wins that not really editor wins, but developer wins in terms of simplicity. I mean, just the configuration you ship with out of the box. I think you often spend quite a lot of time getting set up, and in terms of configuration, you're thinking, am I deploying this into Azure? Am I deploying this here or there? And lots of these things could just be shipped as sensible defaults.
So
we were even chatting about this column yesterday, right? It was about, are we up to date with the configuration with the recent version of Umbraco for Azure web apps? Because there were some changes with logs and stuff like that recently. If it would be an update or shipped with the Umbraco version, that's exactly what is needed to be sure that it won't break if we'll update it back to Azure, for example.
And just something like just saying that I need to store my cache file in an environment temp folder. I think Umbraco could be aware of its context and where it needs to do that, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea.
But yeah, just getting it as close as possible to, you know, as you clone it, you run it and you deploy it with minimal configuration, really.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting topic, and we can probably turn it onto a big discussion and ideas gathering. And we are all looking forward to more announcements about it, because it's like right now it's just a tease where it's all going, and more concrete information probably will be flying in from Umbraco soon, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
In the meantime, the product is still evolving, and we also had, as I've mentioned, the latest release of Umbraco, which introduced some of the improvements and changes here for Azure as well. I don't know if you've already upgraded to the recent versions. I had the chance to do it this week, and 8.6.2 fixes some of the issues which were spotted in the meantime with the locks, for example.
Yeah, Azure locking, and specifically the SQL main DOM lock, which was added in 8.6, but now it's far easier to configure it, so you can configure it locally and it runs before it would blow up. You can have it there whilst doing an upgrade and it won't blow up. You can also have it on all of your your servers rather than just the back office server. So they're slowly improving the configuration, but this is more of a stability update.
Yeah. But good update, and also package creators released a lot of upgrades for various packages, and we have a long list. And also, Craig mentioned that there is an unversion 3.0,
which is on our list.
Oh, where is it?
One.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's true. So let's go through the list. So, Doctype Grid Editor. Release for 1.2.3 with some of the fixes. Unversion, exactly, it's on my list. I forgot to do
3.0. I honestly, I knew about this package, but I'd completely forgotten about it. And when I was compiling the news for today, I didn't realize this has been around since V4.
Yeah, Matt really built it back in V4.
Yeah.
I think.
Is this one of Matt's packages that Soren has taken over, or is it something that Soren's built?
Well, I guess either that or he's completely stolen the name.
No, it's a package, and this package, I always install it, and I always mention it for everyone who will keeping the installations clean, right? And the database clean. And as you can see, it's very popular. It has 50 votes for plus ones, and it right now has a version for 8.4 plus, which is something what was really awaited by a lot of people who were using this package in various Umbraco versions.
I guess some people might not actually be aware of what it does a bit, but I guess just you know, every time you publish a piece of content in Umbraco, it stores records relating to it in Umbraco, and this just keeps that in check, so you can only store for a certain amount of time or a certain amount of versions. It's really useful.
I think it's a good topic for a demo. Maybe we can invite Soren or someone who
Warren in the chat has confirmed that it was transferred to Soren this week. So Soren has done the update, but it was originally Matt's package.
Cool. Thanks for info. Yeah, confirmed. The next one is Plumber from Nathan, and a great blog post covering all of the new upgrades and things introduced in the version 1.2, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 1.2 of Plumber. So workflows, document workflows and stuff like that for Umbraco. Really cool, and new improvements for the charts, dashboards, and things for the workflows indeed. Vendor checkout. We mentioned Matt Braceford already, and Matt is right now fully focused on vendor, and there is still new versions, new upgrades for the packages outside of vendor core. And
this is really nice. This is kind of along the lines of what we were saying about you kind of install something and it's a framework to build upon rather than a starter kit or something. So this is a configurable and a configurable checkout that you can build on top of, or you can use the code, the helper methods as like reference documentation for building your own checkout, which is cool.
Yeah, that's really handy. And also we had a next tease from Perplex team from U Marketing Suite, and first features and upgrades related to the personalization. So scoring of content against personas and some customer journeys. Looks again really interesting and really
Coming next
helpful.
week, I think. Yeah, next week they'll release version 1.1. So this is coming soon.
Yeah, still reminds me that I need to play more with the demo site, which we've set up using the personalization and new marketing suite. And new things, new starter kit. You've mentioned the word starter kit. There's a chime
starter kit with
starter kit.
Tailwind, Alpine, hero icons. Looks quite clean, quite nice.
Yeah, another way of building Umbraco website using starter kit and predefined things, and Skybred Umbraco grid data with a first stable release for Umbraco 8.
As well as a V7 version this week. I think version 2.07. Yeah.
I've seen it in some of the projects, but I've never used it to work.
I haven't either. Is this the one that gives you strongly typed access to the grid?
Yeah, I've only really used it for indexing in Examine. So yeah, you have an event, publish event, and then you deserialize into a model, and then you can kind of store the actual text content quite easily into the Examine fields.
Is that still relevant now that the Examine JSON is split out in the index into individual fields? Does it still apply?
This is kind of previous use back in version 7. So
cool.
I've not touched upon it for a while. But I think it is just a model, a strongly typed model to access.
Awesome.
Access grid.
Yeah,
very cool.
And that's from the packages side and releases side. We also had a Skrift release this week, and with 2 great articles on it, and we can just mention them and invite everyone to read them. I think again they are not that technical, but again they are around the areas which are really important, especially these days, and things like remote work, how to look for work from the various perspectives. There's a great article from Emma about switching the responsibilities and attitudes between various types of the
finding happiness, finding a job, a lifestyle, a setup that makes you happy. I read this and was kind of nodding at every single thing I read. It was I've experienced every single emotion that she shared in that post. Yeah,
same here. And second one was about motivation and how to cope with motivation withdrawal. And again, I was reading it with a smile on my face, because this is exactly what we all need, and some of those steps were already applied. So great article from Erica, and some really useful tips for dealing with lack of motivation and how to boost it, and not only with these times which we are right now in, but in general in work-life attitude. So links down below. We will definitely share them, and they are worth to read. And events, Callum, events which are upcoming.
Yesterday was the Leeds virtual meetup with Phil showing Yuzu, and Andy then showed their implementation of a Yuzu site. I didn't get to attend, but I wonder if it was recorded. Maybe someone in the chat can let us know. But coming up this week, we've got 2 meetups. I'm actually speaking at the Australian meetup virtually. Unfortunately, I really wish I was there right now. But I'll be showing off my sidecar project. It's running Umbraco on Azure Functions and all of that jazz. It's UK morning time, but evening in Australia. So kind of almost anyone around the world could dial in. There's a link below.
Do you have a recorded demo of sidecar anywhere?
I don't, but maybe I'll ask if they can record this meetup, because I need to. And then this week we have the London meetup. Next week, June. Oh, it's June, isn't it? Damn. The June Umbraco meetup for London is an accessibility themed meetup. So we've got a fantastic talk from Rachel, and we'll have some discussions about accessibility and a couple other things. So if that sounds interesting, come along to that. It's virtual again on Thursday evening.
Yep. And next is a non-virtual event, which is CodePatch. There are submissions still open, and when is the deadline?
Usually the deadline is next week, so you've got a week to apply. Of course, I think they're actively considering whether CodeCamp can go ahead this year, but so you don't need to worry if it gets cancelled. Your application rolls over into next year, so don't waste time. Just you've got a week to apply. Put your name down. I went last year, first time. I was a bit skeptical. It turned out really, really good. Yeah, recommend applying.
Yep. Speaking about deadlines, we are also closing a deadline to getting a health check done for free for someone at Coworkers, and it's 11 hours left. So if someone wants to have a peer review or consultancy or chat about the solutions, it's here to submit and participate. And other things which were listed as other stuff is contributions are open and call to actions for package team, right?
But if you now contribute to the Unpack repository, it counts towards your score on our GitHub contributions leaderboard or whatever it is. So yeah, no excuse not to.
Exactly. And you've, Callum, spotted something interesting on Umbraco repositories.
This is really interesting because now it has a commit. So this morning when I put this in the links, there was no files or anything in this, but literally in the past hour, Rasmus has pushed a demo of a Vue.js app that can run on Azure Static Web Apps, which came into public preview this week. So yep. This is a hardcore powered Vue.js Azure Static Web Apps backed template.
So many buzzwords. So many
buzzwords, yeah. But it's cool that it's great to see Umbraco making some of these demo applications because it's going to be a great way for people to get started.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at static web apps, but I'm not sure where the actual pull of the content comes from. Is that actually built statically in a build stage, or is it done? So
it would be. It will literally just give you a web server that can serve HTML, like a Jamstack app, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and then as a JavaScript Azure Functions API is also bundled in with it that you can use for doing all of your backend stuff. So in your scenario, Darren would say SpeedWagon, if you had a JavaScript implementation, you could talk to the JavaScript implementation and it would read your SpeedWagon JSON off disk, format it, return it as an API, and you could consume that on your front end.
Okay, and they've just done an implementation of that for hardcore, just a client.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I think.
Okay.
But we are using Netlify, for example, and it's like the same build pipelines, which was just outputting the static HTML files, basically, and hosted for cheap prices on Azure static websites.
Yeah, Jekyll or Hugo or any of these static site generators would work fantastically on it.
Yeah. Another blog post coming from Owen this week. One of the MVP highlights about Gary.
This is not an MVP highlight. This is just a community corner.
Wait.
So typical programming has now resumed on the community corner. So this is.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
This is the kind of highlighting community members. This is a really nice story about Gary's first code garden and his experience of the community. Recommend giving it a nice read.
And second one is the output of some of the Twitter threads and discussions about converting HTML to Markdown. And here it's an interesting demo. I saw it because we were also dealing with some kind of dilemmas if we should use HTML or Markdown to store the content for some of the publications. And here is how to convert it using some of the parsers and options. So really cool tutorial. And last but not least is the Umbraco education program and blog post from Umbraco HQ, how WebMind utilized the education program. And we've mentioned the education program a couple of weeks ago, that it was not that often used.
With Perplex doing training, wasn't it? And now WebMind are. Not many people know about this, that Gold Partners can do free training effectively for universities and schools. I don't know of anyone in the UK right now that's doing it. I know the team at the Umbraco Leeds meetup were going to start doing it, hopefully, but I don't know of any Gold Partners actually doing it.
That's cool. And that's all from our list. As you've said,
49 minutes later, but we've covered so much juicy stuff.
Yeah, and still probably we missed something. So if we did, let us all know. And yeah, if there was anything else to add, Darren, do you want to add anything else from your side?
No, that's information overload for me. I don't know how you do it every week.
I still need to spend at least half an hour catching up on the things which I missed again. But yeah, that's a great and packed week. So high five, you rock, for everyone who shared a lot of great work and participated in the last week's events. Great output from it, and I'm really personally looking forward for more things like that. Yeah, to learn more things from the amazing stuff which was worked on during the isolation times. So yeah, we'll see each other on as usual on the next week's umbraCoffee.
Yes.
So yeah, thanks Darren for sharing SpeedWagon, and I'm also going to check out how we can utilize it and work with it.
No problem, anytime. And Callum, record that sidebar.
Yes, record that talk.
That
that would be very useful. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks guys, and have a great rest of the day and amazing weekend ahead.
Yeah, you too.
Take care. Bye-bye.